Hey guys, so we are jumping deep into functions today. We will learn pretty much advanced concepts like return type and parameters inside function. So first of all, we will take a look at what exactly a return type is. I am just sharing a cool picture with you. So yeah, like I will be editing if needed. So basically, first understand what exactly a return type is. We already know that our main function has a return type as integer, and we already know that we always write main as int main, and we will start its definition. So here you can see if you don't want any return type, then you have to write void. That means returns this function returns nothing. Okay. If you want to return a float, then you should be mentioning that, okay, this function's responsibility is to return a float. Again, this function's responsibility is to return a integer. So just like that, if you read here, like return type is nothing but a data that function returns to us after its execution is done. Okay, this is most important thing. After returning, if you are writing anything below this line, then those lines will be of no use. Okay, if the function is returning something, then at that time the execution of the function stops, execution of the function finishes. Okay, so exactly return type is nothing but a data that we get after the program execution ends. And what are use cases of it, what exactly it works, how exactly it works in main, we will take a look at it now. So first of all, we will take a look at what exactly how user defined return type will look like. So I will take integer as a return type, and I will just name as get player health. Okay. So wide use case of return types is to set getters. Okay. This is also called as getters because this function is getting us something. This function's responsibility is to get player health. Okay, so what I will do, I will create a simple variable above int player health, and I will just initialize it with 100. Okay, make sure that like you are declaring it outside the main and at the top, because if you are declaring this here and if you want to return this player health in this function, then this is not accessible via this function because the scope of this function is main. But if you are writing this at the top, then the scope of this entire variable is throughout the program. This is something called as global scope and local scope as well. So in short, if you are declaring this variable inside main, it will be only accessible inside main. If you are declaring this function on the top, that means the it will become global for all the places of this program. Okay, so make sure that you are declaring this variable particularly at the top, so this function can also access it and main can also access it if needed. Okay, so let's exactly look at how exactly return type works. So I'm mentioning here integer is the return type of this get player health. So again, it is a responsibility of this function to return integer. Okay, to return integer. If that function is not doing that, then compiler will give us an error. Here you can see, I will just zoom in a bit. Here you can see it is an error, and if you hover over here, like it will see that control reaches end of non-void function. That means compiler is saying, okay, this is a non-void function. That means you are returning something, but you are not writing that return statement. Okay, so return statement will look like return. You need to type return, and as it is an integer, you need to pass any integer to make this function work. Okay, now you can see this error message will gone, and this function will return the 10 value. Okay, instead of 10, if you want to use any different variable like player health, you can also do that, because the data type of player health itself is an int, and responsibility of get player health is returning the integer, and that's what exactly we are doing. But if you are saying anything like string, okay, so this is nothing but a string, right? But here the data type is integer and you are saying return malhar as a string, then compiler will show that like int with, like here you can see, cannot initialize return object of type int with an L value of the constant character 7. So in short, compiler is saying, okay, you are saying this function should return integer, and you are just returning string, that is not a good thing. That exactly compiler is saying to us. So make sure that if you are returning integer, then you have to return integer itself in the return statement. Okay, so for now I will just use player health, but you can just try any number here, 10, 100, 1000, billions, millions. Okay, it will definitely work. So I will just use player health for now. And what I will do, I will here like write a statement inside main, cout player health. Okay, and now what I will do, I will call this function. So how to call a function concatenated with the cout? Simply use arrows, left pointed arrows, and then just call a function get player health, and you can end this with semicolon. So I will just zoom out a bit. So yeah, like now if I run this program, just take a guess what will be the exact output. Okay, so I'm saying the compiler that okay, cout player health, and I'm calling this function, and this function's responsibility is to return a integer. So just take a guess what will be the output. Hey guys, so yeah, like I guess you have a number in your head, and exactly this will be the output if you are doing, if you are using the getter. Okay, so player health, and here you can see 100 is getting printed because here we are initializing this player health as 100. If you make it 50, then immediately you can see the change in output as 50. Okay, because what is exactly happening is inside main we are calling this get player health. The responsibility of this get player health is to return a player health. Okay, and this is again a variable, so as this value changes, the returning value of this function will also change, and we will get the different outputs. If you are hard coding it as 50, sorry, not 50, let's 25, then now we are simply saying that get player health is a function that is returning 25. So always it will return 25 no matter what is the value of player health, because there is no correlation between this player health and here returning what we are returning. So that exactly a return type is. Make sure that if you are using return type, then you have to write a return statement. And now if you think logically, you might argue that hey Mallar, main also have a return type of end, but we haven't used any return statement inside main. So the answer to that query and curiosity is, so inside C++, return 0 is by default. Okay, so even if you are not writing this line, C++ compiler will assume that you are writing return 0. So you don't need to write this line. Okay, uh, even if you are not writing, okay, only in main. Okay, it is only applicable for main, but if you are going for any user defined function, you have to always write return statement as per it. So there can be different, like if you are changing this to float, okay, and if you are returning 25, this might run. Let's quickly test. Yeah, because float integers are a subset of float, right? So by default compiler assume that okay, this 25 is nothing but 25.0. Okay, but it is a very interesting fact. If you are writing int here and you are just throwing here 10.5, then again we are violating the rules. Okay, we are saying integer is a return type and we are passing we are passing float here, so that is again a false. So yeah, like just like this, we need to make sure that we have to return that data type only that we want to return inside a function. So what is exactly use case of this? Suppose you have tons of scripts, just like this is a only one script. There are tons of other scripts, and suppose enemy also want to access the health of the player, and obviously enemy will not have access to this player health. So you can simply create this function, and you can simply call that function get player health inside enemy, and then you can access those variables easily. So that is one use case of the return type. Return types are widely used in getters. This is also called as this function also called as a getter of a player health. It is a standard concept inside programming. So main use case of return types is to set getters, and to access the different variables from the outside scripts. Okay, as you are going ahead with the programming journey, you will understand it more and more. but now fundamentally understand what exactly a return type is, how to write a return type, and all the stuff. Thanks a lot.